Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Magick Witchcraft and Occultism. This is episode 12, part 2 on the Dream Key. And this part of this episode should be the most entertaining in the entire series on dreams. It's also chock full of information. It's also a little bit longer than useful. Now, here you go. Here's my guide to my video, and you can just jump to whatever section interests you the very most. Now, before we get started, let's roll the intro.
What is magic? Magic is the hidden knowledge of the ages, just waiting to be discovered by those of us willing to dedicate decades of our lives to unlocking these ancient secrets. Let the lessons begin.
Please remember to like, share, subscribe, click the little notification bell so you never miss an episode. I stop getting lost in the YouTube algorithm, as I'd really appreciate that. Alright, let us begin. Now, to help conceptualize this for you, let me give you a brief approximation or breakdown of the proportional sources that dreams come from. About 15% of your dreams come from the superconscious mind or less. 80% of your dreams come from the higher self or more, and 5% or less generally come from the universal consciousness on average. To be fair, this is my estimation based off of my many years of practice, research, and experience. The higher self is the portion of the superconscious mind that has been trying to communicate with you through the medium of your dreams for your entire life. Now, the interpretation of your dreams has been left up to the conscious mind to understand the message sent back through the subconscious mind, which we view as dreams to be interpreted and understood by the conscious mind. So the superconscious mind, or the higher self, has a way to communicate with the conscious mind that the conscious mind can understand. So you have to make something known as a dream key. This is the key to unlocking and understanding your dreams. You'll have to make the dream key in the conscious mind to study it, and then over time, the conscious thoughts will filter down through the subconscious mind to your superconscious mind or the higher self, and then the superconscious mind will know how to speak to the subconscious mind and relay those symbols and symbolism back to the conscious mind. Then you will know how to interpret your own dreams over time. The three minds have a lot to do with our overall physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and magical well-being. Allow me to briefly exemplify this point. If you haven't enjoyed, we'll say, a sexual intimacy in a very long time, and you then have an erotic dream, this could be a representation of the subconscious mind or the superconscious mind bringing this need to your attention of the conscious mind through the subconscious mind's action of dreaming. This symbolic representation can give insight into your own subconscious instinctual desires, helping you to bring this natural requirement to the surface of the conscious mind so you can take corrective action in the conscious mind to satisfy this essential need. Now that we have gone over this, let us move on to the dream key itself. There are many books on the subject of dreams and how to decipher and interpret your own dreams. All of these books on the topics of dreams or dream interpretation take their perspective from one of very two specific perspectives, either a clinical psychological perspective or a magical correspondence perspective. My personal perspective on dream interpretation falls somewhere in between the two of these philosophies. Shortly, I will give you an abundance of generalized interpretations you can use and apply to your own dreams, but in truth, only you can decipher your own dreams. That's because everything in your dream is highly personal to you, the individual. The same things I or another person would use or associate with the same symbols is at best a generalization. These generalizations simply do not have the same breadth and depth, the same meaning and weight associated with your individual dreams, as your dreams are unique to you. So your dream key needs to be unique as well. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot use the same generalized meanings that I or someone else would use. It only means that the meaning associated with the symbols or symbolism has to have very specific meaning to you on a very personal level, so it'll resonate with you. That reverberation, or will reverberate, back through the conscious mind into the subconscious mind through the medium of your dreams, filtered down into the superconscious mind. Eventually, the superconscious mind will recognize and understand this pictorial language it has been sent, and then in turn use this new cipher and send messages back through the subconscious mind to be reinterpreted and translated into a dream. Then, when you wake up, the conscious mind has to try to understand what the subconscious mind was trying to convey to the conscious mind, and then the conscious mind has to try to understand and make sense of what the dream is trying to tell you, and that's assuming you even remember your dream at all. Dreams can be seen or described as the whispers of your own soul trying to communicate with your spirit. Now, I will show you a method I have used for over 2 decades that works very well and has the benefit of being very simple. So easy and simple, in fact, that you will never need any other resources on dreams for dream interpretation for the rest of your life. This lesson can be applied to your life immediately without any training, unlike many of the other lessons I'll teach you in upcoming lessons, which will take you maybe days, weeks, months, years, or even decades for you to achieve mastery of. Now, for you to interpret your own dreams, first you must create your own list of symbols that have great personal, significant meaning to you. This is called the dream key. When writing down your dream key, it is important to have or leave a few blank pages to extend your dream key for later use. This is, of course, assuming that you're using a pen and paper. First, you have to make your dream key. Before I show you a generalized dream key that you can use as a guide for yourself, also, whatever you find that I have written for your dream key, use whatever works for you and leave the rest behind. But first, I'm going to explain how a dream key is supposed to work in the first place and how it's meant to be used. Next, we move on to the methodology of the dream key. The reason why the methodology works for the dream key in the first place is because of the same principle of memorization and repetition that applies in equal measure if you were, say, studying a book for a test. You would also study your dream key in roughly the same way. First, write down a list of words and the specific meanings that you have associated with them. I suggest you only use 1 or 2 words with each symbol. You want to keep it as simple as possible, and you do not want any ambiguity in the description, so it will translate seamlessly through the 3 minds. So there will be no real hindrance for communication between the minds. It helps if you have a symbol to go with the word. This is not absolutely necessary, especially if you have strong visualization skills to begin with, but it can be a useful aid in the translation of the symbols through the 3 stages of the mind. Since perspective is key, pardon the expression, I want to give you a well-rounded understanding of this concept. Now, with the dream key, from time to time, you will find things that will come up in your dreams that you do not have a symbol for, that you will not understand what they mean. This is because you do not yet have a corresponding symbol for what the superconscious mind is trying to convey to the conscious mind in your dreams, at least not yet. You will need to create a new symbol for the superconscious mind to help the conscious mind understand what the superconscious mind is trying to tell you through symbolism. You see, the superconscious mind has been trying to communicate with the conscious mind literally your entire life, and most people couldn't understand the complicated language of symbols. This is why you need to make a dream key. In essence, the symbols you are using are a pictograph language that will translate up and down through the three minds, the superconscious mind created the original language that the conscious mind could not understand. So the conscious mind now has to take responsibility for all three minds by creating a new language for the three minds to use. And then the conscious mind has to teach the language to the superconscious mind, so we'll be able to understand how to correspond back and forth in a way that the conscious mind can understand. Even though you gave the superconscious mind a language that the conscious mind can recognize, if your dream key is not dynamic enough, the superconscious mind will continue to make new symbols and symbolism. This only means you need to interpret what the superconscious mind is trying to convey through symbols and symbolism, as well as the context in the scenario, with all the combination in addition that was added because the superconscious mind believes you should already have the symbol in your dream key, and the scenario gives context to the dream itself. Then, after you interpret the meaning, try to make a corresponding symbol for it, or whatever it might be. Only now are you starting to understand the subtleties of how to communicate back and forth with a fuller and more deeper understanding through the images sent through your dreams that you received. Never forget, this line of communication is always a two-way street. It's never a one-way street. This is also the reason why you will be adding to your dream key for most of, if not the rest of your life. As over time, certain things will come up in your life that will have great significance to you, or over time, what had great importance to you will lose its impactfulness of the meaning of a symbol that you associated with it. That's why you will need to replace symbols on occasion. Let me give you some perspective. If you're dating someone at the moment, he or she may be the symbolic representation of love or lust. And if that love affair ends, the symbolic meaning of love or lust could transform into hatred or misery, thereby facilitating the need to change the symbol. This is the reason why the process of interpretation is left up to the conscious mind, as the superconscious mind has already interpreted the information it was given and sent it back through the minds. So now the dreams need to be interpreted by the conscious mind, as you have to be conscious to interpret the meanings that relate to your daily life. Now we move on to the dream key formula. Now, the first thing you have to understand about a dream key, or at least how to make a dream key, for the most part, nearly every symbol you can currently use already has a statutory definition with a pre-existing meaning and correspondences that are already associated with it. When it comes to your personal dream key, you can either choose a pre-existing symbol that has a pre-existing meaning. You can choose to make your own personal symbol and associate whatever personal meaning you like with it, or you can mix and match from the two. Now, this might be a good time to mention that the correspondences do not always match up with the magical correspondences, but they are usually relatively close to one another. Now, out of the options, I personally recommend you stay with the pre-existing meaning of the symbols, and then maybe slightly tweak the meanings to suit you personally. Let me give you an example. A bed usually means sleep, but it can also mean having sex, while the meaning of sex in a dream is generally self-evident, but it could also mean companionship. This is what I mean by tweak the meaning of the correspondences slightly to fit your outlook or your ideology. Regardless of which of the options that you choose from, you should write down the word with the specific personal meaning that you have associated with it. Now, it's also important to remember, the simpler the meaning you associate with the symbol, the easier it is for that symbol to filter up and down through the three minds over time by repeatedly studying your own dream key. Now, what does that mean exactly? To study your own dream key. Just like I said with the books, you would study them if you were trying to pass a test. You need to read your dream key every night before you go to sleep and every day when you wake up, and think of your dream key throughout the day to strengthen the sympathetic link between you and your dream key. This is a very time-consuming method, but it is highly effective. The amount of time it'll take for this method to work fully will vary depending on the individual. It could take as quick as several days or weeks, or it could take up to a few months. That's pretty common. And it also work unevenly. Like some of the symbols will catch in your mind faster than others. And some people it could take up to a year or possibly even longer, but that's completely dependent on the individual. But eventually, even a slow learner will be able to use this methodology effectively. Eventually, the superconscious mind will recognize and understand the language of symbols the conscious mind has sent to it. And then the superconscious mind will be able to send that corresponding information back through the subconscious mind to the conscious mind. This method is the absolute most reliable method you will come across. And after it has taken full effect, you'll be able to accurately depict or decipher and interpret your dreams and their inner meanings and the hidden symbolism. Now, everyone's dream key is different. What I use for my dream key is unlikely to be helpful for you and your dream key, because what's significant to me is more than likely not going to be significant to you. Now we move on to the dream key examples. Now I'm going to put them on the screen right now so you can just pause it and you can use whatever works or whatever you like and just leave the rest behind, because these are only a list of examples. And if something on this list you like but doesn't match just right, just tweak it to fit what you need. And lastly, we move on to the advanced dream key. Up until now, all the symbols I have given you have been fixed symbols with fixed meanings associated with them. But there are different kinds of symbols, like a person, for example, that adds a different dimension, a flavor that you can use in a more dynamic and interactive way, such as an individual you know in your personal life, such as your friends, your family, your children, your enemies, your rivals, your adversaries, even your pets to a lesser degree. Because they are people, they already have, or you already have a familiarity with them, and their presence adds context to the dream as you already know their personalities. Since they're people, they can communicate with you in a way that is more recognizable to the mind. When you place a person in your dream key, that person represents something very specific to you. That something is tangible and meaningful. It adds a sympathetic link. Of course, everything and anything that goes into your dream key is, of course, meaningful to you. But a standard symbol we have already gone over, and they're less interactive. On the other hand, a person is even more meaningful, as to a greater or lesser degree, you have a sympathetic emotional connection to them towards one alignment or the other. When these people present themselves in your dream, it's much easier to interpret the meaning of the dream and gives the superconscious mind more leeway and makes it easier to have a direct communication, as a person is able to have a conversation with you, or you can observe a conversation between two people you already know. Especially if one of them is, let's say, your friend and the other one is an enemy, that type of conversation adds a different layer that represents something very unique and specific to you, with these two very specific and unique kind of characters. Now, I like to give you some perspective just in case my explanation was somewhat unclear or too abstract. This is a list of archetype characters that can represent feelings, expressions, or an idea. A wise mentor that represents a question but not an answer. A parent that represents safety and stability. A lover that represents love or compassion. A close friend that represents friendship and loyalty. an old friend that might represent duality and diverging paths, someone you mentored that represents a student or an obligation, a teacher that represents knowledge and wisdom, a soldier that represents protection and authority, a child could represent purity and innocence, a man or woman that represents temptation or seduction. As you can see, the avatar archetypes that have a specific meaning, but because they're people, their interactions with you will give you a greater and more meaningful context to the interaction. One of the people or the characters that represent something specific quality or aspect of life, or a thousand other abstract concepts. This is the advantage of having a person instead of having a symbol. A person in a dream can speak to you and give you more direct information instead of a symbol that has a fixed meaning. The interactions you have with these characters are more poignant or more potent or more impactful, as well as making it easier for dream recall, for these after images can stay with you long after the 10-minute mark has passed, because these characters and their interactions with you and other characters or yourself, the meaning behind them is more palpable and will generally stay with you longer. This also makes it easier for the superconscious mind to communicate through dreams and give you a higher level of quality to the communication between the conscious mind and the superconscious mind. And that concludes episode 12, part 2 on the dream key. Now, I know this episode was a little bit longer than usual, but I wanted to get everything that was associated or attached with the dream key in one part. And in episode 12, part 3, I'll be covering dream interpretation and the magic of dreams. So, as always, I wish you the very best of luck with your research, and go in peace.